So whenever I was 16, I had count them, two freaking best friends in the absolute world. And we had such fun conversations. It was great. Like, it was so easy to talk to them because I had basically grown up with these guys, right? We had so many inside jokes, like just talking to them was so easy. It was incredibly easy. But whenever it came to me talking to people who were not those two people, it became difficult. I almost had forgotten how, because those are the people that I spent all of my time with. I didn't really talk to people other than them, so any jokes that I had or things that I thought of to say just didn't land with other people because it was all inside stuff. It was all stuff that we thought was funny, that we knew the meaning behind, but everyone else was like, what? So my conversations became very rocky. And I went on a date with this girl, right? Still 16. Went on a date with this one girl, and the conversation was so stagnant. It was just like awful. I was trying to shift from first gear to like third because I had no idea how to lead a conversation. I had no idea how to actually come up with fun things to talk about. I didn't know how to just generally speak. From that, I learned, man, maybe there is something that I need to work on from this. Maybe there's a lesson to be learned here. Because I'm not getting what I want right now, which is having fun conversations. And if I keep doing this, if I keep down this path, I'm not going to end up with the kind of life that I want, where I'm just rejuvenated by talking to people. Because I was whenever it was my best friends, but when it was other people, it just isolated me more, because it made me want to stay more and more in my shell and not talk to these people. Not talk to people that I didn't know. When men don't have developed social skills, they can't get the things that they want in life. Because our whack education system does not teach us this, we have to learn this on our own. If we want the greatest rewards out of work, life, and love, we have to learn this. Because do you really want to have another conversation with a girl that falls flat? Do you really want to end up in a marriage later down the line where you guys talk about work and how it was that day and that's it? No. Because you and me aren't like normal people. We know that there is more to life than that. That we can have incredibly inspiring and rejuvenating conversations with our best friends and also with strangers. We just have to know how. My name is Luke Grenoble, and you have found yourself among a community of young men who are no longer settling for the mediocre life that below average social skills affords. If that sounds like something you want to be a part of, hit subscribe right now. And I'm going to tell you exactly what to say to have killer conversations, but first, you have to change the way that you think about them. Because right now, you are afraid of silence. You would not be watching this video otherwise. Ask yourself, who do you think has the better conversations? The guy who is, while the other person's mid-sentence, is thinking of the next thing to say, what would be the funniest thing to say? What would be the best thing that I could talk to this person about? Or is it the guy who really doesn't give a fuck? It's the guy who doesn't care, right? Not because he genuinely doesn't care about the outcome of the conversation, but because he isn't pressed about how he interacts. He isn't pressed about the things that he says and what impact it's going to have. He just speaks what's on his mind. No, I'm not saying that you have to go as far as to not care about the outcome of the conversation, but you must be okay with silence between sentences, between thoughts, between words. Your conversation is going to become more natural, and it's going to flow because you are now okay not responding immediately right after the next thing that's said. Someone can ask you, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? And you can say, you know, mint's up there, but Chunky Monkey is really pulling my yarn lately. And you can say that. You can have this silence between your answers because you are now okay with it, and it sounds natural because you think it sounds way longer of a silence than it actually is when it's in your head. You must be okay with this silence between sentences and thoughts and words, because when you are, it becomes so much easier to sound natural. You no longer seem like freaking ready to respond at any moment. You seem more like you are not afraid of having conversation, like you are not even nervous, because it's okay for you to take up silence. It's okay for you to take up space. Literally space, like this. You can have your arm on a couch, but also like conversational space. It's gonna make you look much more confident, because you are gonna be much more confident, right? This is one of the first steps to becoming more confident. It's just being okay with having the silence. Part of this is also, you still want to lead the conversation. You still want to make sure it's going in a direction that's fun and exciting, that you want to talk about. And also, hopefully, the other person wants to talk about it too. And also realize that conversations are a two-way street. Sometimes you have convos that suck, not because you are being a bad conversationalist, but because the other person is not into it. So you have to make sure that you are judging yourself on the correct criteria, right? Still lead the conversation and be in control and make sure that it's going in a direction that's fun for both of you. The next thing that you have to get out of your head is stop having a filter. Literally just stop it completely. Lower it to the point where you say exactly what's on your mind. And now you're gonna think, I can't do that. Luke, I cannot do that. Ask yourself this. Remember the question I asked earlier. Apply this here too. Who has the better social life? Is it the guy who is constantly thinking of the nice thing to say, the polite thing? Or is it the guy who has no reservations? It's the guy who doesn't care. It's the guy who has no filter, right? You saw this in high school. It's the guy who polarizes. The guy who's not afraid to talk about topics that might be a little bit taboo, because polarizing is good. This is going to lead you to connect with people who actually care about the things you're talking about, who actually vibe with you. And the people that you don't connect with, who you turn away, they weren't gonna like you anyway, bro. So now you at least know you don't have to put up face, right? Now you can just be your 100% self and have close friendships because of that. And you're going to get better at this with practice, right? Your filter's not gonna all the way come down in a day, but over time, you're going to get more and more practice in this, and you're going to level up the skill of lowering the filter. Now I'm going to get in the nitty-gritty of conversations, so of what to actually say during conversations, right? So you don't just stall. So the first thing is you have to ask interesting questions, because what do people normally ask, right? When you're thinking about this, like, how's your day at work? Hey, how are you? Good. It's been pretty good so far. Slow, huh? Slow. Bro, these conversations are extremely boring. That's what everyone asks all the time. There's zero sparks of excitement in these combos, right? And that's what we want, because humans are hardwired to love novelty. We want to have exciting conversations. So use this to your advantage. Use this novelty principle. Ask things that people don't hear every day. Still things that are similar, still things that get to around the same point as the normal boring conversations, because those boring conversations are important, but ask them in a new, exciting, and positive way, right? So instead of saying, how are you? Ask, what's the best thing that's happened to you today? Now that's exciting. They really have to think about that for a minute. They can't just give the normal response of good. Okay, they have to think. Instead of asking, how is work? Ask, what are you passionate about right now? Instead of asking, what do you do? Ask, tell me the story of blank. You could say, tell me the story of how you ended up at this job, or you could say, tell me the story of Jack. Or you could say, tell me the story of Betty, right? I love using that one a lot because like it gets people to think, well, if I were to sum myself up in a couple sentences, how would I do that? People love talking about themselves too, right? So like, it's a win-win right there. So action step right now, take out a piece of paper. If you don't do this, you're a pussy. Take out a piece of paper and write down 3 things, 3 new conversation starters that are sick and that are going to spark people's brains on a piece of paper. Make sure that they are positive, exciting, and novel. And you can come up with your own, or you can literally just steal mine. I would say just steal mine because they've worked for me for years. And there's probably a reason for that. Next thing is you want to start finding conversational sparks that people have, the things that get them excited. Now, the questions that we just came up with are designed to try and find these sparks, right? The design to try and find the things that the other person wants to talk about. You're going to realize when you hit this, because their eyes are going to light up. They're going to get excited about what they're saying. Mirror this back to them. Also get excited with them, man. Because if they're getting excited about something, there's probably a good reason for it. You should be excited too. Get interested in what they love speaking about and follow these threads of conversation until you find something you both have in common, a connection. Then double down on these commonalities, right? When you have a conversation about someone, he's like, yeah, I'm a filmmaker. I'm making this new film. And I'm like, oh, that's really sick, dude. And he's like, yeah, it is pretty sick. I'm a cool guy. And you're like, yeah, man. What was the film inspired by? What movies? And he's like, well, I mean, there's Fantastic Mr. Fox, of course. And you're like, oh my God, that was my favorite movie. That's literally my favorite movie, dude. That's a connection right there. Now you guys can talk about Fantastic Mr. Fox. You can also talk about how that influenced his shit. Now, an absolute freaking hack to start forming like amazing social relationships, not just great conversations, but having like best friends. Follow those threads until you can tie them off. And what I mean by tie them off is either find some way you can help them with that thing in the future, or find some way to make future plans with the person revolving around that thing. So he could say, yeah, I'm having this movie that's like inspired by Fantastic Mr. Fox. Right now, all we need is the artwork for it. If you do visual art, you could say, man, I'm a visual artist. I could at least come up with some sketches for you. You don't have to choose me by any means, but I could at least come up with some sketches and see if you like. And then the dude's like, yeah, man, free sketches, of course. That ties you in, bro. That literally ties you in, because now you're like, okay, what's your contact, bro? You have a reason to hang out. You have a reason to speak with him more and further develop this relationship. If you speak about things that you are passionate about or the other person's passionate about, and you find commonalities, you're never going to run out of things to say. It's just not going to happen, bro. The last thing that's going to help you never run out of things to say again is just start talking to people, bro. I know you're not doing it right now. It literally gets better with practice, right? This is a skill that you're leveling up. You remember in Skyrim how like there was a speech skill? It's literally the exact same in real life. You have to level up the skill and get practice in it to get better. You start unlocking those little tiers up there, yeah. Your first few times are going to be rocky, but it's going to show you exactly where you need to focus on, exactly the things that you need to improve. And it only gets easier and easier every single time that you do it. So act now so that your future self is incredibly grateful for you. Start becoming the person that you want to become. This is your action step. You are going to use one of those prompts that you came up with, or you just stole from me. Preferably you just stole mine. But use one of those prompts today. After watching this video, stop watching YouTube, stop freaking binging, bro, and go today and use one of those prompts. If you really want to change and not continue going down towards a mediocre life, the best thing that you can do is apply what you learn and then talk about it. Like this video so you can come back to it after you've implemented these tips, and then come back and comment your experience. Not only is it going to help you internalize these lessons more, but also I'm going to respond. Plus, it's also going to be encouraging to the other people in our community to see this, right? To see people actually succeeding and implementing these things. Apply for my free social skills coaching with the first link in the description. Act now and become unstoppable.